interpretation. My own schooling and that of my companions has been in a critical tradition. That enterprise by itself, however, has left the Church with little to preach, teach, or trust. For that reason, my work has become increasingly post-critical, that is, with a second naivete, a readiness to engage in serious ways the claims of the text. I have done so in a conviction that the alternative meta-narratives available to us are inadequate, and the core claims of the Bible are more adequate for a life of responsible well-being. Both liberal progressive Christians and fundamentalist Christians are tempted and seduced by alternative narratives that are elementally inimical to the claims of the Bible. For that reason, the work of a generative exposition of biblical claims seems to me urgent. Thus, I anticipate that this series may be a continuing invitation to the ongoing urgent work of exposition that both makes clear the singular claims of the Bible and exposes the inadequacy of competing narratives, that from a biblical perspective amount to idolatry. It is my hope that such continuing work will not only give preachers something substantive to preach and give teachers something substantive to teach, but will invite the Church to embrace the biblical claims that it can trust and obey. My work has been consistently in response to the several unfolding crises facing our society, and more particularly the crises faced by the Church. Strong market forces and ideological passions that occupy center stage among us sore tempt the Church to skew its tradition, to compromise its gospel claim, and to want to be like the nations. See 1 Samuel chapter 8, verses 5 and 20. That is, without the embarrassment of gospel disjunction. Consequently, I have concluded over time that our interpretive work must be more radical in its awareness that the claims of faith increasingly contradict the dominant ideologies of our time. That increasing awareness of contradiction is ill-served by progressive liberal accommodation to capitalist interests, and, conversely, it is ill-served by the packaged reductions of reactionary conservatism. The work we have now to do is more complex and more demanding than either progressive liberal or reactionary conservative offers. Thus, our work is to continue to probe this normative tradition that is entrusted to us, that is elusive in its articulation, and that hosts a holy agent who runs beyond our explanatory categories in irascible freedom and in bottomless fidelity. I am grateful to the folk at Westminster John Knox and to a host of colleagues who continue to engage my work. I am profoundly grateful to Davis Henkins, on the one hand, for his willingness to do the arduous work of editing this series. On the other hand, I am grateful to Davis for being my conversation partner over time in ways that have evoked some of my better work and that have fueled my imagination in fresh directions. I dare anticipate that this coming series of republication will, in generative ways beyond my ken, continue to engage a rising generation of interpreters in bold, courageous, and glad obedience. Walter Brueggemann. Editor's Introduction. I began theological education just as Walter Brueggemann was scheduled to retire at Columbia Theological Seminary. I knew very little about the academic study of religion, probably even less about the state of biblical scholarship at the turn of the 21st century, yet somehow I knew enough to take every possible course with Dr. Brueggemann. After retiring, Walter continued to teach a course periodically and work from his study on campus, and he always insisted that it and any pastor's workspace be called a study rather than an office. But before he retired, during his last and my first year at Columbia, I took 6 different courses in biblical studies, including 3 with Walter. In my memory, I spent that academic year much like St. Thecla, as she sat in a windowsill and listened to the teachings of the Apostle Paul. According to her mother's descriptive flourish, Thecla, clinging to the window like a spider, lays hold of what is said by him with a strange eagerness and fearful emotion. It was for me.